Hi, I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of BecomeABassist.com, and in this lesson you're going to learn how and where you can use all these bass chords, as well as a couple of places you definitely shouldn't use them. Firstly, let's talk about some places where we should avoid using these chords. Now, in general, if you're playing in a larger ensemble, more than like 3 or 4 people, it's probably not such a good idea to play chords. And the reason I say this is that most bands will have a harmony player already, someone whose job it is to play chords. Most of the time it's going to be a guitar player or possibly a piano player or a keys player. Now, if it's their job to play chords and you're constantly playing chords on top of them, it's going to end up sounding a little bit muddy probably, even if you're using the non-muddy versions of the chords. Also, it's probably going to annoy them just a little bit. Now, that's not to say that it can't ever work, because it totally can if you're playing with sensitive musicians. And let me show you what I mean. Check out this recording up here of Marcus Miller playing with Herbie Hancock. They're playing a song called Watermelon Man. And Marcus comes in around the 30-second mark, and he's playing this. He's playing... Now, not only does that sound really sweet, but it's not clashing with anything. Herbie's being really sparse with his keys playing. There's not a whole bunch of chords. There's nothing really to clash with the bass chords. And that bass line is actually part of the song. But it goes to show that even if you are playing in a bigger ensemble with harmony players, you can still make it work if there's room for you. Basically, the less busy the music is, the more room there is for you to put in a few kind of relatively thick chords. Now, if you're playing with a smaller number of people, say in a duo or a trio, in general there's going to be more space because there's less people. And this is the perfect place to put in a few chords. And especially if you're playing with a lot of single note instruments. For example, if you're playing just you and a horn player, for example, a saxophone player or a trumpet player, or even you and another voice, it's going to sound really cool. Check out the song Magic by Coldplay. It's up here real quick. And it's a lot of the song is based on these kind of bass shell voicing. They go. A lot of the song is based on that. But notice in the recording, if you go check out the recording, it's very, very sparse. There's not a whole bunch going on. There's not a bunch of piano, not a bunch of guitar. There's room for those bass chords because it's a smaller ensemble. There's less things going on, and it makes it sound really, really cool. Another place you can use this idea of chords is when the harmony player you might be playing with switches to playing single note lines. For example, if you've got a guitar player that plays chords for a lot of the time but then switches to playing single note lines for a solo, you can kind of drop in some chords there and it sounds really good. It fills out the space because there's no chords playing at that time. Take something like, if you know the song Stand By Me, you've got the bass line. Now imagine a guitar player starts taking a solo here. Fills out a lot more space, and if they're playing a single note guitar solo, it gives more of an idea of the chords rather than just single note bass lines. It fills out some space and it sounds really, really good. The next place you can use these kind of chords is if you're playing a bass solo or improvising. Chords can sound great in this area, especially if you're playing with musicians that are sensitive enough to know that when you start playing chords, they should probably stop, if you know what I mean. Check out up here Otil Burbridge's solo on a song called Footprints. Now, for the most part, he plays single note lines, and it sounds great. Don't get me wrong. But then when he starts playing chords at about the 7-minute 42 mark, it sounds amazing. He starts implying different harmony than the song, and it sounds great. Also notice that when he does this, everyone that's playing with him kind of gets out of his way and lets him do his thing. Otil Burbridge is a master of using chords when he's improvising. He does it a lot, and he does it really, really well. The other great use for these chords is for writing your own material, writing your own songs, all that kind of stuff. It's really great for that. Now, it can be a little bit difficult sometimes if you're just using a bass line as a reference for writing. So that's why these chords can be super, super valuable. It gives you more of a sense of the song, so when you take it to other people, you know exactly what it's going to sound like. That's why so many songwriters are guitar players and piano players. You find that a whole bunch of them are piano players and guitar players because they live and breathe chords. Now check this out. This is a video from my live album. There's a chord-based intro. The first 2 verses are just bass chords and voice. And then after that, guitar and piano player come in and start playing regular chords. So I switch to playing a kind of regular bass line because I don't need to play the chords anymore. The important thing to remember this stuff is to try different things and experiment with different things. You're going to learn a whole lot more by actually going out there and trying out different things than you ever will by sitting and thinking about what could work in theory. So definitely go out, experiment, see what works, see what doesn't. So to review, we talked about all the different places we can use our chords and the one place you probably shouldn't. We talked about how it's not a great idea for too many chords to be flying around if there's a bigger ensemble and there's already a lot of chords going on. What else to talk about? We talked about how it can work though. We talked about how Herbie makes it work when he's playing very sparsely, and let's Mark is going to play that. We also talked about how the less busy the music is, the more room there is for you to play some chords. We talked about when harmony players go from playing chords to playing single lines, how you can kind of sneak in a few chords there. And we also talked about using chords as a writing tool and how you can use them to write your own material, write your own songs, and create music that way. And of course, we also talked about how you can use chords when you're improvising and how that can sound really, really cool. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of BecomeABassist.com, and I'll be talking to you very, very soon.